Well, hello everybody. It's a windy day here in Paros. I'm staring out at the hills and I'm staring out at the sky and I can see the sea and I can see how choppy the sea is. The wind's obviously coming from the north. I can see all the, I don't know what you would call it, but the white part of the waves. So perfect day to stay a little bit closer to here, which actually suits me very well because I yesterday spent the day at a beach. I just thought, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to the beach and I'm going to spend the day there, and it was beautiful. I just lay down in the sand underneath a tree and I read one of my very, very close friends' manuscripts. She wrote a book, a fiction book, and I read it all day and finished it. I saved the last 8 pages actually for coming back here, for when I'd be back here, because I didn't want to finish it at the beach because it was so good and I just didn't want to finish it. And I brought it back and sat here staring out at this panorama, and on like the last page it refers back to one of the characters who is interwoven into the story, who ends up dying, or it's told, somebody is recounting how somebody she knew who was a character earlier in the book, way back in time, ended up coming to Paros and how he died here in the place that he wanted to be. And it was so emotional. For me, it was so emotional just because, number one, it was the end of this book that I just absolutely love. Number two, I kept having to remind myself that it was my friend who wrote this. What genius. I mean, I knew she was a great writer, but, this is like next level stuff. And then, of course, as I'm staring out at the beauty of this island and the beauty that is here, that seems to be everywhere here, a beauty that 10 years later I'm still completely in awe of. I read this little morsel, this little Easter egg, this little tidbit, and it refers to where I am in the world geographically. It was magic. Anyway, so yeah, I was at the beach yesterday and had a lovely day, but I think I got a little bit too much sun. My skin got a little bit too much sun. So today's a good day to stay in and let that sun settle and stare out at the beauty that the waves, or rather that the wind is creating on the waves. And ultimately, I just wanted to pick up the microphone and just talk a little bit about how grateful I am, really. How grateful I am to be here in this place that no matter how often I come and no matter when I come, always sort of weaves its magic. It always feels magical for me to be here. It is truly somewhere that I come to that allows my soul to land. And I felt it the first time I came. And actually the first time I came in 2013, 10 years ago, I came here because in 2011 I had given a yoga retreat in Santorini. And I had chosen Santorini because back in 2008, when I was in another career and another iteration of life, another life stage, I had asked back then. I was not a spiritual person at all, but I basically was so miserable in my last career but I didn't have the guts to leave. And I remember before I came to Greece, I sort of gave it up to God, to spirit, to whatever I believed existed, even though I was not spiritual at all. And I just said, look, if I'm supposed to leave this job, if I should leave this job, send me a sign. I need a sign because I can't do it without some sort of nudge. So maybe I was spiritual. If I was hoping for a nudge from the universe, or from whatever, because I'm not fond of that term. Maybe I was more spiritual than I was giving myself credit for. Anyway, long story short, in Santorini, I did get a sign, and it came in the form of a dream, and it was just a male voice in my left ear saying, "You just have to leave." It was superimposed on the dream. I was dreaming about my then work, and all of a sudden superimposed like a narrator's voice just said, "You just have to leave." And I woke up, and I couldn't believe it. I had gotten my sign. And so that's why I left my last career, and that's why I do, that's why you're listening to these words, because I basically had a path that, in hindsight, literal events guided me towards, but also was my path on some sort of metaphysical level, and I just needed to, recognize that was, and that I just needed to follow it. Anyway, all that to say that in 2011, I gave this trip in Santorini, and a friend of mine who lives in Athens had said to me, if you like Santorini, you should look into Paros, because Paros is, back then, what she said it's got the same feel as Santorini in terms of like the warmth, not just the warmth. She didn't mean it in a temperature sort of environmental way. It wasn't meteorological way. It wasn't that. It was, she said, it's got, in French we say en chaleur. The location itself has like a warmth. It's an energy. And so she was saying to me, like, if you want Santorini, but you don't want the crowds of Santorini, you don't want like the, how can I put this? If you've been to Santorini, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a vibe. She said, go to Paros, because Paros is where locals go, and it's beautiful and whatever. So long story short, I came here in 2013, and I completely fell in love with it from the first time I got here. And that wonder has not abated at all. That wonder has only increased, and that sense of being home has only increased, and being able to look back over 10 years of bringing people here, and 10 years of changes here on the island as well. It makes me feel very grateful for all the literal details that have guided me to this second, where I'm actually taking holiday vacation, proper vacation, for the first time in years and years and years. I get to be here. There are a billion different ways that life could have, thrown obstacles in my way. And that has not happened. And I recognize that I've also worked my fucking ass off to make all of this happen. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the work that I have done and the decisions that I've made. Because in hindsight, what I can see is that I was right. For all the risks that I took, and for all the adversity that I faced, and for all the justifying I needed to give, and for all the going against the grain that I've always done, I was right. And I'm really proud of myself for sticking to, that expression, sticking to my guns. I guess the term guns is almost evocative of the Bhagavad Gita and the battlefield of, being you and following your dharma and having to fight against norms, whether they're cultural or ethical or just, what the masses are doing. I mean, listen, it's been in some cases very testing, but I'm really proud of myself that I've stuck it out. And if there's anything to be learned from that, let that be that, if you have a gut feeling towards what you want your future to be, and how you want your present to be moving towards that, you stick to your guns. Doesn't matter what other people think. That's just a test. But ultimately, I'm just grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to, I guess, to look back on 10 years of doing I mean, it's not 10 years of me giving trips and events and whatever, but it's 10 years of Paros. It's 10 years of this island. It's 10 years of my relationship with this island and its relationship with me. And when I look back, and I don't do this very often, so I guess maybe that's what like vacation and downtime does. But when I look back and I think about all the students that have come here throughout the years, you know, I noticed the other day, whenever I drive around the island, I see different landmarks and different places where I've been and where I've brought people. And that's kind of what the island is now for me. It's not just this energetic, you know, charging hub for me. It's this place where if I glance over right now, I'm just glancing over to the peak of a hill at the top of which is a monastery. And that makes me think of, you know, bringing people up there throughout the years. I can see them. I can see the moments. The moments are like emblazoned in my mind. So it's not just about me. It's about, I suppose it's about me being some sort of portal. I believe that life is all about portals that, you know, bring us to a different place, a different realm, a different realization, a different understanding, a different knowing, and ultimately a recognition. Ultimately, it's about landing somewhere or meeting someone or doing something or eating something and having that recognition spark. And that recognition is really, I believe, source energy, the energy that animates these bodies, recognizing itself, but also recognizing something that was meant to be part, that was always part of that individual story. You know, when I landed on Paros, I remember just feeling like, oh, I know this. This is going to play a big role, because it just hummed. It just made my spirit feel alive. And that's happened with people. You know, when you meet people and you have this gut feeling like you know them or you've met them before. This happened to me about 3 weeks ago with somebody who came to one of my classes. I was sure that he had been in one of my classes before, and he wasn't. But we ended up talking and we hung out a little bit, and you know, I recognized that this my soul, source energy, whatever you want to call it, recognized that this person was a player in my life, you know. And so, yeah, I believe there's a recognition. And I do believe that, you know, this place is a portal for me. I believe people who I've met in the past who have proven to be my people are also portals. And I now know that I'm a portal. You know, my existence and the fact that I stand in my purpose and that I do stuff like this, it serves as an entryway to other levels of consciousness, to other understandings, to other experiences for people. And from what I've heard anyway, the feedback from people who have come here specifically throughout the years is that it changes them. It changes them forever. The evidence for the evidence for that makes me the happiest is when people who have come to anything that I give, anything that I offer, stay in touch after. And not necessarily with me, but with each other. To me, being a portal that ultimately ends up connecting people, there is no greater honor. Knowing that people stay in touch, they find each other, they find their people through the portal that is me and what I do. You know, these events where people come together with shared intention. My God, that's like the greatest honor. For me, that is the greatest honor. There is no greater purpose than to connect, as far as I'm concerned. And years ago, a really good friend of mine who's been on this trip like 5 times, 6 times, she's coming back in a few days. During one of the I think it was either the opening circle or the closing, I think it was the opening circle of one of these Paros trips. We were, you know, she basically said to the group and to me, she said, you know, Brammy, she calls me Brammy. Yes, it's about the yoga and meditation, but like those are just the labels that bring us all together. Ultimately, it's about bringing us all together. And she's 1,000% right. I think anybody who does anything that then attracts other people, you could be working as like the director of human resources in your company. You could be, giving actual physical tours around the world. You could be a restaurant owner. No matter what you're doing, if people are coming to whatever it is you're offering, yes, on the literal realm, you are a chef or a restaurant owner or whatever. But really recognize that on a spiritual level, you're a connector, you're a portal, you're offering an epicenter for people to come to in order to have their energy elevated somehow. And I really believe that it's important that we recognize ourselves as these portals. And again, I'm using that term very, very specifically because a portal is simply, I don't want to say it's an actual geographical space. It's not. A portal is, a door or an entrance or an approach or a bridge or a tunnel. It's like a space that if you choose to go through it, it brings you to another dimension. It brings you to some sort of other dimension of knowing, of understanding, of recognition. And I think that we all do that in one way or another. We have the power to affect each other in ways that are transformative. And if we understood that, if we went into every day understanding our power as portals for other people, number one, I think that would really provide intention for everything that we do. Everything we do would be dripping with intentionality. It would be really mindful. And I don't think that we would be so pulled into all the tricks of division and disenchantment that, companies and governments and the way the world operates provide. I think we're very pulled away from connection. And as I mentioned in the last podcast episode, recognizing that there is a degree of connection that we are completely oblivious to throughout our lives, a connection that unifies everything, an energy of connection that I think we know about when we are born and we are reminded of when we are close to dying from these bodies, or the bodies are close to dying. But ultimately, that connection, I think, can manifest as recognition of ourselves as these portals, these approaches, these entranceways to other realities, to other stages of life. The fact that so many people come to this Paros trip and have come to this Paros trip throughout the years and look back on it so fondly, and some of them keep coming back. To me, that tells me that not only am I providing this portal service, but this island itself is a portal, bringing us to the realization that sometimes we need to travel to the other side of the world in order to find parts of ourselves that elude us when we are in the mundane and in the day-to-day and in the routine. I really believe that we all have this ability to be a portal for each other. And so not only if we woke up every day with that as an intention, not only would that keep us on a specific track, but I think it would also attract our portals, the portals that are there for us. If we're doing it for so many other people, I believe that that's an energy that we emanate, and that energy attracts itself, like attracts like. And so all of a sudden we get almost into this energy where we're drawing these portals towards us, so that it's like this symbiotic relationship where everybody is providing a passageway to transformation for each other. And I think that's really what it's about. I think that especially in this moment in time, in history, where there's so many things that are pulling us away from goodness. There's so many reasons to object and so many struggles and so much inequality and injustice. I think that it's really, really important to recognize that, I think anyway, the purpose of life is to find your joy and find your meaning and find your purpose, and to do that especially in the presence of all the things that would pull you away from all of these things, that would pull anything that would pull you away from feeling better. And I don't mean that in a, shoot heroin kind of way. I mean sustainably better. I think that playing the financial game, having money be the god and goddess that we pray to, pulls us away from connection, pulls us away from ourselves. It pulls us away from a deep knowing. I think that playing the game of life, of competition, of trying to win, of seeing how much material stuff we can amass and whether that's better than what the other person is doing, I think that that's praying to a false idol. I think paying attention, well, this, but like paying attention to who somebody sleeps with and what they're eating and what their body looks like and where they're traveling to and what they do for work and blah, 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 blah. I couldn't give a fuck. Live and let live. Recognize that we are all energy in these bodies. We're trying to navigate this human experience, and that's fucking it. That's it. I'm so tired of people and myself of falling into old patterns of, paying attention to this stuff that we've been conditioned to pay attention to, because that's learned behavior. And there are people and entities that profit off of us falling into that unconscious learned behavior. I don't want it. Not for me. Not for now. I think it's about recognizing when we're falling into that old game, and recognizing when other people are playing that game, and being very quick not to judge when they are, because I think the best way to teach is to lead by example. Let people see that you can find fulfillment and you can find peace and you can find purpose without, throwing judgment at everybody else and saying, well, you should be doing it this way. Just show them, inspire them, be a portal. Have intentionality inform every day. So yeah, not only does that sort of keep you on the right track, but that, I think, attracts much of what you are probably seeking to you. Listen, all I can say is that I'm sitting here. I have to keep reminding myself that my body is actually here in Paros, because I think about it so many times when my body is not here that I have to remind myself this is actually happening now. This is not a memory. This is real time, real life right now. I try to remember my power as a portal as much as possible. And all I know is that I'm here. Mind, body, soul, energy, I'm here. And that means that I'm doing something right. There aren't, I believe, enough of us talking about that, about how to do it right. And I do believe, and by the way, I don't think that like material stuff and money is a demon. I think that those can be great, great, great things, but they're not the goal. They're the byproduct, right? They're the byproduct of standing in your truth and standing in your purpose and remembering intentionality and making that your mindfulness practice on the daily. Because I believe that if we can make the decisions, even when they're tough and seem to go against the grain, but if we can make the decisions that awaken our souls and make our souls vibrate, make us hum with recognition and fulfillment and truth and purpose, I don't know. I think that energy can only attract itself and provide inspiration to other people to do the same, or at least to begin seeking what it is that would make them, live that moment, experience that moment. I know that when I talk about stuff like this, it can be frustrating because there are people who have played the game for so long, the game of life for so long, and they're so enmeshed in it that they don't even know how to start. How do I begin to find my dharma? How do I begin to stand in my purpose? How do I have this cultural and sort of cognitive mindset, energetic, spiritual mindset change, the shift. And the answer to that is have faith that it's possible. If you have faith that it is possible to feel this alive in a body, and this happy, and this content, and this satisfied, and this, what's the word? Justified. Justified in having fought, sticking to your guns. If you have faith that that exists and that is possible for you, I believe that that's the first step and the hardest step. And I believe that the rest will unfold. But it requires you paying attention to yourself. It requires you paying attention to intuitive urge and nudge. The directions in which you believe you need to move, shift in order to get the rest of it done. But listen, trust me when I say it's worth it. It's so worth it. And when you get to the part that's worth it, when you get to the reward part, for lack of a better term, there's just that knowing of, my God, I was right. And it's not even I, by the way. It's not even like me, Bram. It's source energy. It's the energy in the body. It's confirmation that following that intuition, because I believe intuition is sixth sense. It's the expression of sixth sense of the energy in the body. I don't know. I believe that it just brings us right back to the most fundamental truths, including there is a degree of connection that we're completely oblivious to. I believe that connection expresses itself. The energy of that connection expresses itself through us. And if we can pay attention to that, I think that that's where all of our truths lie, all of the happiness, the joy. It just does. And the evidence for me, and that's all I can really talk about, is my own experience. But the evidence is I'm staring out at the most beautiful, beautiful panorama right now. And that's because I made that shit happen, but also because I have been very lucky in this life, in this body. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. And listen, I'm grateful that I can recognize the concept of portals and understand that I can be one. And I just want to share that. You can be a portal for someone else. But it involves you getting real with yourself, getting true with yourself, and going out every day with the intentionality of, okay, I'm going to be a portal today for someone. You don't need to know where you're bringing them metaphysically or literally. You don't need to know where they're going to end up. You don't need to have a destination. The intention is just, I'm gonna be a portal. Whether it's through my speech, whether it's through my actions, I will be a portal for someone else. And let yourself be that gateway to something else for them that's waiting for them. Be that symbology, And when I think back to all those people who have come here throughout the years, and I mean the people who are coming this year, I'm just a little bit, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but my heart is very, very full. Very full. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about this to big myself up. I'm talking about this because I do believe that all of our stories and all of our experiences should be shared because they are more communal than we are led to believe. We are led into isolation. We are led into loneliness. The system of the game of life is not designed for us to be healthy, and it is not designed for us to be connected. Quite the opposite. People don't profit off of other people being confident and secure and well. Wellness is not something that is encouraged in our society. Wellness is something that costs more on an energetic level, on a financial level, on a cognitive level. And when I talk about this experience, I'm trying to I guess I'm trying to spark your own knowing by the journey that I am exposed to. This isn't about Bram. This is about every single one of us. We all have the power to awaken to the right path that's ahead for us, or rather the right path that we can choose for ourselves. Because again, it is not going to be provided for us. We got to make it happen. And if there is any example that I can provide in my experience, let it be that if you wake up and become sentient, conscious in your own experience, to make your own decisions and to bring yourself forward along a path that you may not know what looks like ahead of you, but you trust that this next step that you're on is the right one, my God, the things that await. I believe life is for living, capital L, living. That doesn't happen by, staying in jobs that we don't like, staying in relationships that aren't working for us, living in places that don't make us feel inspired when we look around, hanging out with people who, bring us down, who play their game. So many people I work with, wellness coaching clients, when they come to me, very often what they say is, I'm having trouble hanging out with my friends. And that's because I believe the people who come to me, their souls are in a state of transformation. They're starting to go through some changes. And the people who they have hung out with up to then are not. They're playing the easy game of gossip and negativity and talking shit about people and reading, like tabloid magazines and being obsessed with celebrity culture. And listen, I'm not, I don't mean to be critical of that, but like, if we're sitting around talking about who's sleeping with who and which actor does what, like, who gives a shit? Let these people live their lives. They obviously have a path that has elevated them to collective consciousness. To be sitting here focusing on what they're doing means that we are somehow avoiding focusing on what we're doing. I am not here to make sure that Brad Pitt is doing well. I am not here to make sure that, I don't know, whoever, fucked up when they were on stage. I don't care. Live and let live. Let these people follow their dharma, but I'm going to follow mine. There is enough to focus on along my path, and I encourage you to focus on your path. Do not look at what someone else is doing. What's that quote from the Bhagavad Gita? It is better to live a fraction of your own dharma than to try and imitate someone else's. So yes, we've been encouraged to look at celebrities and to feed tabloid journalism and to be obsessed with these people who wore this or did that or slept with this or divorced him or her or them or whatever. Who cares? Fuck. That's a waste. That is a waste of this journey. We are here to wake the fuck up. And I believe that we can do that by recognizing ourselves as portals for other people. Because again, I'm going to reiterate, that brings us a mindfulness practice that keeps us on track, on an honorable track. But I also think it attracts the portals for us that we desperately need. As somebody who is defined by other people as someone who inspires, it can be very hard to find inspiration. For me to find inspiration, there have been stretches of time where I have been starving for it and disappointed because, the people are not there. I'm not finding it, at least not on a level that makes my soul recognize. And what I've learned is that to know my power as a portal helps, because it then attracts. It attracts the thing that I seek, which ultimately is this energy that I believe I am and that you are. So anyway, I want you to give that a good think, this concept of portals, of yourself as a portal, and see sort of what comes up when you think about that. And I know that this languaging can be alienating. And listen, if you know me, I'm not about like unicorns and lollipops and blah, blah, blah. I'm only going to talk to you about the shit that I really believe is true. And I believe this is true. I know this is true because I'm fucking looking at it all around me. Where I am and what I see around me is confirmation that everything that I have, learned and been living according to and believing is true. And so, yay me. Anyway, listen. This group that's coming next week for the September trip is sold out. October, if you are interested in coming to this magical place, and by the way, this was not just like a marketing tool to sell it to you, but I am just mentioning there is room in the October group from October 10th to 20th. If you feel like coming to Paros, the weather's going to be lovely, mid to high 20s, sunny, the ocean, everything. Let me know. Reach out. And again, just to reiterate something I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, in November, I am going to be in Toronto at Beaches Hot Yoga. I'm going to be doing a not hot class. It may be yoga, but it's definitely going to be meditation and mindfulness. I want this to be as accessible to everybody who shows up as possible. And all proceeds for this class, from this class rather, are going to be donated, 100% donated to Feed It Forward, which is a Canadian nonprofit led by Chef Jagger Gordon. And this is basically an organization that has many, many initiatives to help reduce food waste, not just in Canada, but all over the world. I mean, he's in the Ukraine right now, bringing food there. But also to deal with the unhoused situation, the homeless population, and to feed the unhoused. So I have a lot of respect for this guy. I have tremendous respect for what he's doing, and I want to devote my time and energy and funnel whatever resources we can towards him and what he's doing and all the people involved in the organization. So I believe it's November 19th. Hang on, I'll check right now. But if you're in Toronto in November, please feel free to come out to Beaches Hot Yoga. Listen, one thing that has always bugged the shit about me about classes like this, benefit classes or community classes or whatever people call them, has been that like there isn't a price attached to it, but then there's a suggested donation. Listen, like, please, really? Sorry, I know that this is I know that this is probably going to be annoying to those of you who run yoga studios or whatever, but like a suggested donation insinuates that everybody who comes is going to try to get away with paying nothing. So you're saying to them, this involves something. And listen, I understand there are people out there who want shit for free and whatever. I'm not doing that. I fucking hate that expression. Suggested donation or investment. What's the investment? Fuck off. I'm sorry, but I can't handle that languaging. I can't. Why in the wellness community are we so afraid of just saying we want money? And in this case, for this class, yeah, I fucking want money. I want money to be directed towards Feed It Forward. It's not for me. I want it for them because they're doing something. They are a portal. Feed It Forward is a portal for us to be able to do something that is tangible through an organization that is reputable and legit so that we are actually helping each other. So yeah, I want your money. So if you're coming to the class, bring money. And if you aren't going to bring money, go to the Feed It Forward website. I believe it's feeditforward.ca. And on their welcome page, there is a donate button. Please donate generously to this organization. They are, I believe, on the ascent. They are becoming really, really, really well known slowly but surely because they're doing really, really, really good work. I would not endorse it if I didn't really believe that in my bones. And just to, yes, the 19th. It's November 19th, Sunday, November 19th at Beaches Hot Yoga on Queen Street East. I believe it's at 4:30 p.m. But listen, go onto my social media, go onto my Instagram. I've posted it. You can find the details there. That's it. That's it for today. Take care, everybody. Be well. Give all of this stuff a good think. Let me know what you think. Feel free to reach out through social media or however we connect. And let me know your thoughts about it. But really, like right now, as we sign off, I want you to set an intention, at least for the next like couple of hours, to be a portal. All right? And see what that changes. I'll see you later.